So the world's gone freaking crazy, guys. We had a protester shot in Albuquerque, and pretty much every symbol going forward from this, every symbol after George Floyd of a black person who is a model or a symbol of a product, those products are going to have to change now. Let's start really quickly with the protest here in Albuquerque where we had a protester shot, and we'll move forward from there to the world going crazy, and the world just here in New Mexico too, going crazy with all the things that they're doing. I mean, they basically, the governor of this state has gotten power hungry, I think, after finding out that she was able to keep everybody home for several months and do all those things. Now there's new things coming out. But let's start with the shooting. Individual who shot this protester. If you look at it, look at the video of it, and I've looked at the video from every different angle I could come up with, and I've looked at still shots. There's one picture where someone appears to have a knife and is coming at him with a knife, and he is reacting like there's some sort of a weapon there. The man that did the shooting, he's kind of reacting like that in some of these still shots. Some people say it was a ballpoint pen. Some people are saying it's reading glasses, all these different things. But it surely does look like a shank to me. Way long for a ballpoint pen, unless he's holding it just by the very end and trying to make it look like some kind of a weapon. Okay, so I guess they say he assaulted a couple of ladies there at this protest, but what video is of that out there isn't very good, and it does look like these people are just in his face and he just pushed them. But even if that's so, you call it assault if you want, that does not give provocation for these other individuals to chase him down, which is what they did in the video. There's no denying that. They chased after him, even knowing he had a gun. They knew he had a firearm, chased after him. They hit him with a skateboard. One guy had knife, shank, or ballpoint pen. Either way, was wielding it as a weapon. They knocked him on the ground several times, and basically it was an angry mob. So he shot one of them in self-defense, and you can call it anything you want, but that's what happened. Okay, and I'm not. When someone is trying to leave the situation, if it was the other way around, and let's just say that there was a Black Lives Matter protester and a bunch of people wearing Donald Trump mega hats protesting too high of taxes, and this individual pulled some sort of weapon. If those protesters followed that guy, followed him for any length of time at all, knowing that he had a gun, knowing he was trying to flee the situation, well, that's you put yourself into it. Then, if you attack someone with a firearm, and they're trying to get away. I can't even do that in my own house. If there's an assailant in my own house, and they break in, and I confront them in that house, if they flee, I can't shoot them. I can't just shoot them, even though that would be the way the law used to be. If they were in your house, you could shoot them, but not anymore. You can't do that. If they're fleeing from you, you can't do it. So if I chase after him, like some have done, and he jumps in my car and steals it, and I chase after him, I am not going to be able to defend myself. If I end up killing that guy, I will not be able to defend myself in court because I went after him. I continued to propagate the situation. That's what happened there. So he shot in self-defense. Now we move on to the rest of the world going crazy. Let's just talk a little bit about New Mexico news real quick here. Apparently the governor is calling for to stop the sale of all fireworks in the state of New Mexico. Just stop the sale of all fireworks in the state of Mexico. Now, let's think about this for a second. Quarantined the population of this state for 2 months. Starting to reopen things, get things going again. Didn't have any holidays, can't have get-togethers, all these things. Already have canceled the big firework displays where you can actually go and sit down and watch the fireworks display, or go into a stadium, or go to Balloon Fiesta Park like many of us have done, or Rio Rancho, which, by the way, Rio Rancho is always the best, but I'm just, maybe because I live there. But we take the family, you watch these big fireworks displays. Now it's like a drive-in movie. We have to drive to them. You know what? I'd rather just stay home with just my family, have a nice little barbecue, and set off those little fountains there in the front yard, like we used to do. Are you kidding? You're going to tell me I can't do that now? You're going to ban everything, all fireworks. So my kids don't get to go to the swimming pool. My kids don't get, and something that I can do that's not going to promote the coronavirus at all. And I'm doing it in the middle of a cement street, and we're talking about ground-based fireworks, not the aerial types. I can't do that. The woman has lost her mind. That's what I've got to say about that. Moving on. We're going to now change the name and rebrand Aunt Jemima, which was it's been around for like 130 years, the brand, okay? And admittedly, it depicts a type of individual on the packaging. Aunt Jemima was the idea for the character was a former slave who was a great cook, and the first person who portrayed her, basically her image, was a former slave. Last name was Green. First name is escaping me. But she did this, and she was so popular at the World's Fair where they came out with this product. The police had to stand guard at her booth because there had to be crowd control. Okay, she was an extremely popular figure. And to me, I see it as a success story because the fact of the matter was, she was honestly and truly a former slave. In her 30s, she found herself a free woman after the Civil War. And went on to be the model on this packaging and getting paid for it, and had a successful career of that, and also was a storyteller and a whole bunch of other things. But was not a bad job. So we can't have, they've updated the packaging and stuff like that. But there can't be a black woman on this packaging because it's racist because she's a good cook. Maybe, is the Pillsbury Doughboy racist because he's white? We're going to do that. Mrs. Buttersworth also. The idea behind that, if I'm correct, and hopefully my facts are right here. I think they took that from the woman in Gone with the Wind who won an Emmy for that portrayal and stuff. Of course, we're banning that movie also because it portrays slavery. Are we going to ban everything that portrays slavery? They're rethinking Uncle Ben's rice. Is it because, what is it like? Are black people known for making rice? And this is racist because we put a black man on there? I don't even know if there really was an Uncle Ben who made rice, okay? So that's another one. We have here in New Mexico, and I don't know if it's still in business, but best barbecue you ever could get. And it was Mr. Padrell's Barbecue. Mr. Padrell's, I don't know if it was a national company, a local company, but it had a depiction of a black individual on one of the signs at one time, I believe. And it was good barbecue, but I guess we're going to have to get rid of that too. Is it going to go to the level, okay? They call it racist because that was a former slave owner there, that Aunt Jemima, and she was a slave, and it depicted plantation life or something, southern plantation life as a good thing or something. I don't know about that. I just know that the pancake mix was the best ever. So if you're going to buy instant pancake mix, that was the stuff. So hopefully they just keep the formula at least, and change the name if that makes you happy, and if you think that's going to appease people. But to me, all these things we're doing, tearing statues down, you can't erase what happened. Okay, there was slavery in the United States. There was slavery in European countries. There was slavery all over the world. It happened. Okay, if you take every statue down and take every movie off that ever depicted it, and take everything there was to do with slavery away, it isn't going to change the fact that there was slavery. Okay, it's not racist to know that. Okay, it's actually something that we don't ever want to have repeated. Just like there are people out there who say the Holocaust never happened and they try to erase everything to do with the Holocaust. Well, it did happen. It happened. And we should teach that history to our children. We should let them know what it was, let them know why it changed and why it was a bad thing, and move forward. It's getting crazy, people. It's crazy what they're doing to all these things. I mean, we're just people, all of us. And in this country, the racism does not exist like it did. And I did a video about that. I don't think anybody watched it, but I did a video about how the struggle was in the 60s before the Civil Rights Bill, and how it is now. And it's it doesn't exist the way it did before. To add to that fact that the Supreme Court, and here's another one that I think most people would agree with me on this. I mean, I probably have some people on the more conservative side maybe disagree with me, but the Supreme Court just ruled that the transgenders, they cannot be discriminated against because of their sexual orientation. And it's, to me, sad that we even had to take that to the Supreme Court, because it's pretty obvious in the civil rights bills and the Constitution is that everyone is created equal, and you can't discriminate against anyone because of their race or their sexual orientation. It's already there. We didn't need the Supreme Court to tell us that. It shouldn't have had to been a argument over it. People are people, and someone who happens to be transgender can work just as hard as someone who's not. Someone who is black works just as hard as someone who's white. So of course you can't discriminate against them because they can do the same job. They're just capable. So that's an obvious thing. I don't know why we had to have a Supreme Court decision on that. But there's where you look at and you say, okay, we still have some distance to cover here. Okay, we have some distance to make things happen. I mean, I know a lot of people are going to disagree with me and say that, well, my religion says I cannot condone this lifestyle, whatever it might be. Like the baker that couldn't bake a cake for the gay couple in like Colorado. But bottom line is, you can say that. You can say that in your church. Okay, your church, you can be discriminatory in church. You can exclude people if it doesn't mesh with your beliefs in that church. Okay? But if you hang a sign out in front of your door that says, I'm a baker, you now have to bake for everyone equally, because if you don't, you'd be discriminating against someone for a unlawful reason, and you're the one that hung the sign out. So bottom line is, before you get into that job, you better think about what you have to do. If it's going to mess with what your religious belief is at the time or whatever, don't hang the sign out. So that's where we are. Our state of the union, if you will, is gone crazy. The world has gone crazy. We're protesting for things that we don't need to be protesting for. George Floyd, no one disagrees that he shouldn't have been killed. You add these other ones after that with the I think it's the Atlanta shooting that happened there. That one, the man had a taser. If you take a taser from a policeman, you might get shot. If you attack a policeman, you might get shot. Pretty soon we're not going to, they want to change the idea of police departments to something else, and I'd like to see how that's going to work out, because if you want to do that, it's not going to work out for everyone. Because let's just say that we change it to a more of an England style police force, what they had for a while, with just, they have a billy bat and mace or whatever, but they don't actually have guns, because if you don't have a gun on a police officer, he's not going to shoot anybody, right? And it makes them less lethal. I guess they could still choke someone to death, but you turn those guys loose in the United States and see how fast criminals just overrun them. Okay, it's already happened with in Seattle, when that, what do you call it, the autonomous zone, the chub or the chomp or whatever they call that thing over there. People who live in that area have called the police for burglaries, and we're so far lucky. I don't think anything major violent crimes have happened, or any kind of a situation with rapes and murders and those kinds of things. But the people that have called the police cannot respond. Okay, they're not allowed. The governor has told them, or the mayor, whoever it is, the mayor, I believe, they said, don't go in that area, so they can't respond. So who's going to investigate these crimes and try to solve them and try to help these individuals that are in peril? Here in Albuquerque, they called for the defunding of the police department. And the very next day, after they called for the defunding of the police department, the very next day they criticized the police department for not responding properly to the protest. They said they had called the police several times at the protest, the Albuquerque Museum there, where the protester was shot. And not till the protester was shot did APD respond. Well, you got to think of it from their point of view. Every time they've responded to these protests, which are actually freaking riots, and I'm not saying that it's the Black Lives Matter people that are doing it. The people, many of these people who start these protests, they start out, and I'm with you on this one. They start out as a peaceful protest, and then there's these other individuals, these guys that are covered with their faces, and they've got them, and you can call them Antifa, you can call them whatever you want. Those guys show up, and I've seen several videos where you can tell the events that caused the violence are staged within this protest. And this, of course, it makes people's hair stand up, gets the testosterone going a little bit, and some more people throw rocks and things happen. I'm with you there. I totally 100% agree that the Black Lives Matter people who are protesting peacefully have an element coming from the outside and causing this to become more violent. As a matter of fact, the individual who was shot here was one of those individuals with the covered up and so forth. You couldn't see their face and all these kinds of things. In LA they did it. I think it was in LA where they burned a police car. And if you look at that, I was watching another individual's YouTube video, and he was talking about, and he just laid it out. He tore it apart and broke it down. You could see each individual with the little headdress and mask and stuff, how they worked it out to set this police car on fire. And then if you look at the police car, it isn't even a real police car. It just happens to be an ex-police car that's painted correctly and has no lights or anything like that. And it's very old. I mean, it has to be the oldest police car in Los Angeles if it is. And it's just parked in the intersection, and they set it on fire. Well, isn't that convenient? And isn't it convenient that these individuals have water bottles loaded with lighter fluid to set this thing on fire? I don't think these people came to the protest with lighter fluid knowing they were going to set a car on fire. So I agree that many of these protests go bad and become riots for that reason. But if a police department intervenes in that and pushes somebody down, or just tries to regain control of the situation, they're going to get criticized heavily for doing so. So I can imagine them being reluctant to respond to that kind of a call. And when they do respond to that kind of call, what do you expect them to do? If you have people getting out of control, if the police responded to that they were trying to pull down a statue that they considered racist. If they responded to that, they would be duty bound to stop these protesters from pulling down a statue. And if I were a policeman, I just wouldn't want to put myself in that position. Okay? Because if you're the guy that stops these people, you're a racist. You stopped them, even though your job is to stop them from destroying public property. If that public property happens to be considered racist, then you're a racist for stopping them from doing it. Even though the city's going to take it down anyway. It's a symbolism to these guys. They had to be the ones to pull it down, and even though I don't think it got pulled down, I'm not even sure if it's still there or not. The city was going to take it down. Moving further into that aspect, there are people now calling for us to change the name of Albuquerque, because Albuquerque is, it's from Spain, and the individual statue they're trying to pull down, he was from Spain, and he massacred some people, and a racist individual. They don't call us the Duke City for nothing. There's a Duke of Albuquerque who happens to be from Spain. We had a baseball team before the Ice Tips called the Albuquerque Dukes. So is that all racist? Really? We're going to change the name of the city of Albuquerque for this? Okay, I think maybe we should abolish the Palace of the Governor in Santa Fe, because that's where this guy started out. He was governor of New Mexico, governor of the state, and he that was his governor's mansion there, and we still use it. So come on, seriously, guys, this is history. It is what happened. You can't just take and burn it, say, well, it didn't happen. There's never racism in this country. I don't understand what people want. What are they trying to get? I mean, are we going to say in 20 years, are we going to start saying that people like I don't know, individuals as spokespeople, LeBron James and Shaquille O'Neal and all these different people who are spokespeople who happen to be African American and are promoting a particular product, whatever the product might be, okay? And they were an athlete, and that's why they promote these products, because they're athletes. These guys were exceptional at what they do. They just happen to be African American also. In years to come, are we going to say that's racist because the majority of the league that they played in was African American, and we were using these African American athletes to win games and promote products and sell those products? Is that racist? The same way that Aunt Jemima was racist because they used that lady to promote a product? Throwing aside the fact that they paid her well for that, and they pay the athletes well for what they do for them, and the fact that these people are making millions of dollars nowadays doing that. Isn't that the same thing? I mean, these people were exceptional at what they do. The woman who portrayed Aunt Jemima was an exceptional actress. She was exceptional at how she portrayed that, and that's why people loved her. So exceptional people who do exceptional things, if they happen to be black, that's racist. Just don't get it. I mean, make me understand. Somebody out there, make me understand where I'm wrong here. I mean, black people are allowed to be exceptional, aren't they? Just as white people or Chinese people or anybody else, and be great at what they do. And if they are great at what they do, shouldn't they be able to make some money on those on that and promote their likeness? And the fact that they happen to be black does not mean that it has nothing to do with it. They're still exceptional people, and they're making money, and they're using their likeness, which is if you see a action figure of The Rock, it's an action figure of The Rock. If you made it a white action figure, we called it The Rock, it wouldn't be The Rock. Okay, so you guys got to tell me where I'm wrong here. Somebody. Have a good day, guys.